everyone, welcome to another edition of our ClearAds webinars. First of all, I want to address one of the obvious points. Unfortunately, today, Matt Altman cannot join us. He was originally scheduled to be our host today. Due to unforeseen circumstances, he can't be here today. So I'm hosting today. My name is Tom Waghorn. I am the head of training and development here at ClearAds, also the host of our bi-weekly podcast. So you may be familiar with my voice and face from there. But still, even without Matt, we are joined by three DSP experts today. We're joined by Dave Vermeulen, Anne Harrell, and Jack Lindberg. So it would be great if we could go around the room and introduce ourselves. And I'll start with you, Dave, if you want to introduce yourselves to our audience.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tom. My name is Dave Vermeulen. I'm a director of DSP growth and strategy at Buy Box Experts. I've been in the digital online media space for a long time. I actually started my own agency in 2001. Really switched to programmatic and DSP about 11 years ago. But as the landscape changed, I honestly sought out Amazon DSP specifically because of the walled garden nature of the data and the efficiencies and effectiveness of the advertising. And that's when I ended up landing with Buy Box Experts.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Anne, welcome. If you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name's Anne Harrell. I'm a product solutions director for DSP here at Pacvue. I've been in the industry for roughly about 8 years now. I've been at Pacvue for coming up on 4 years. During that time, I've been working on the strategic side of things in terms of DSP, helping our strategic clients build DSP and AMC strategies. And just recently, I've shifted into a role where my Zoom is a little bit broader. I'm focused on driving overall DSP product growth for the company. Prior to working at Pacvue, I worked at an agency here in Austin, Texas, where I'm based. So I have a wide breadth of experience kind of across the executional side of things all the way to the strategic side of things, and now focused on product, primarily for programmatic and DSP, but I've also worked in the paid search and PPC side of things as well.
Fantastic. And last but not least, yourself, Jack.
Thanks for having me, Tom. So I'm Jack. I'm a director of media insights and analytics at the Mars agency, where I lead the Amazon analytics and data clean room practices. I actually know both Anne and Dave pretty well. I used to work with Anne at Pacvue, where I was a senior product manager, leading the development of Pacvue's Amazon DSP and Amazon Marketing Cloud products. And Anne and I worked really closely there as close collaborators, putting that product into motion. And Dave was actually the first client to buy the product. So we go way back, and I'm excited to be chatting with all of them today.
Brilliant. It sounds like there's a lot of history going on between the three of you, which is fantastic. So hopefully we're all on the same page, but if not, I can't wait for this discussion moving forward. Before we start into the questions and getting into the weeds of what we want to discuss today, just want to let everyone know that this event is being recorded. It will be available on YouTube after the event, and it will also be available as an episode on our podcast. So let's get stuck into it. We've got a lot of content to discuss, and we've only got about 90 minutes to get through it all. So it would be great if we could start on getting into some integration and to some synergy as well. So I'm going to open up this question to the whole room. Feel free to jump in wherever you want. I'm not going to pick on any individual one of you. But can you provide any insights into how Amazon DSP as a platform integrates with the other elements of Amazon's advertising's ecosystem and how these integrations can be maximized for success?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So until recently, and at least from a reporting perspective, it was actually quite difficult to kind of marry your DSP performance to other elements of Amazon ads. But I know we're just getting started, and we're probably going to talk about this a lot throughout the session today. But now with AMC, we're actually able to very easily see performance across your entire advertising portfolio on Amazon. So you do get that kind of more integrated view of how your display and your DSP campaigns ultimately affect the rest of your advertising program. Now, outside of advertising, obviously there are a number of tools available for advertisers on Amazon that do help have a more integrated approach. One example is if you wanted to, connect what you're doing off Amazon to your Amazon DSP campaigns, you could obviously use Amazon attribution, which also can incorporate into AMC. So now there's a much more kind of synergistic ecosystem available through Amazon that really connects your DSP, not just to other Amazon advertising properties, but to your entire strategy across all of retail media and beyond.
Yeah, you mentioned AMC a few times there. Obviously, that's the Amazon Marketing Cloud. Is that something that you would highly recommend that anyone listening today actually sets up if they're using DSP, whether that's at an entry level, or is that going to be more reserved for those who are more familiar with what they're doing with DSP and want to take that further?
I 100% recommend that everybody uses AMC. I'm sure both Dave and Jack will agree with me here today. Regardless of your spend level or your familiarity with DSP, AMC in general, there are a ton of tools, including Pacvue, shameless plug there, that allow you to utilize AMC in a way that's a little bit more user-friendly than the traditional format. I know Amazon has recently kind of released some means to make AMC in its traditional form a little bit more usable as well. So I would just say that everyone kind of dive in there. It really allows you just to have a more advanced, mature strategy with DSP because you do have that measurement element that you just wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, kind of the heavy lift is really on making sure you're building out AMC correctly. You need to have the proper support within your company and expertise to build it out on your own, or like Ann said, you can use a partner like Pacvue or other tools to get access to it. But at the end of the day, when you're provided with like client-facing dashboards, the ability to read it, gather strategies, insights, and see that connectivity between all of your ad products, it was a huge leap for us on the DSP side, right? Because we're always trying to convince every brand, and show them just how influential DSPs on growing their new to brand or reaching unique shoppers. But with AMC, it really brought data into the picture, made it a data-driven decision on your executions moving forward. Long-winded way to say, yeah, absolutely back up everything Ann said. You need to get engaged with it. You need to start learning about it now.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as a shameless plug on this either. So if you want to plug your stuff, do it.
And Amazon has put the resources behind the product. And so we know it's going to grow. We know they're going to continue to iterate. So you don't want to get left behind, truthfully.
Yeah. I would take it even one step further than Dave and Ann. You must use Amazon Marketing Cloud. It is imperative. It's the only way to figure out how to connect the dots between all of your advertising activity on Amazon. And if you're not doing that, you're flying blind. So must use Amazon Marketing Cloud.
Yeah, and having Jack and Ann here is great. We could probably go 90 minutes on AMC alone, but I would also say it also enables you to get that connectivity between your direct to consumer marketing efforts and Amazon, and the influence between both and other marketplaces as well. So much opportunity there. I'm sure we'll dive into that deeper later.
Yeah, I think one of the game changers for us, and this is probably just a small part of Pacvue's AMC, was the ability to see the path to purchase and where DSP came in and all of those steps. And because DSP exists almost as a separate entity itself, it was almost hard for them to, like you say, map between the two and marry up the two to see how each platform was influencing itself. So yeah, I think that client-facing dashboard and actually showcasing that journey was really important for us. On top of all the other reports and tools that are there, that one was made the picture clearer.
Yeah, and I would piggyback off of that and say that I don't think that that's simple or small in any way. I think that really changed the game for DSP executors. I know because I've been on the other thing. I'm strategic now, but was executing it at that point, and it was a way that we could say, hey, all of these things we've been saying about upper funnel media, display, video, they're true. They're actually impacting your bottom line, and tie you know, things that typically don't see a lot of revenue or conversion attribution to the sales volume that you're seeing on the other end of things. So I think that was one of the biggest things that came from AMC, and, you know, continuing to optimize on that ad path data is allowing people to be way more advanced than we've ever been previously, especially now with the introduction of AMC audiences, which allow you to kind of not just have insights, but turn those insights into actions from an ad path optimization perspective.
Yeah, that moves nicely into my next question. I know it's not something that we've got visibly in front of us on our sheet, but I know that AMC can actually help you create audiences. Is that something you can shed a bit more light on? Because through the DSP platform, we can obviously build audiences based on look back windows based off of our own and our competitors' ASINs. We can also move completely up the funnel and take in-market and lifestyle audiences, and even now contextual. How do AMC's audiences integrate within those and, I guess, evolve from those?
Sure, I can take that one. I think I'd want to start with the technical, like how does it work? And then we can talk about why you'd want to use it. So in Amazon Marketing Cloud, there's a section in the top header that says audiences, and you can create an audience that's basically a selection of user IDs. The user ID is like the pseudonymous identifier for a person who's logged into their Amazon ads account, like navigating through your ads ecosystem. So you say, I want to select users who have done some sort of behavior that, or in some sort of group, or engaged at a certain time with all of Amazon Marketing Cloud's various signals. When you're looking at what's available within the DSP platform, maybe you have 25 signals that you can access to build audiences. When you're thinking about Amazon Marketing Cloud, you have a couple thousand, you know, maybe a slight exaggeration, about 1,000 different things you can call on to say, here are the things I want to try to target based on. And those can be all over the map, such as I want people who have seen ad A but not ad B. I want people who were new to brand when they purchase on Prime Day and haven't bought anything since, so I can get them to become subscribe and save customers. There are all sorts of possible examples. One that I know Anne is very fond of is keyword targeting. So I want people who have searched a certain subset of keywords, maybe that's my category generic keywords, but never bought anything from my brand. So I know they're in market based on their search behavior. And now I want to target them with ads to say, hey, I see you've been searching for dog food. Here's an ad for Purina.
Yeah, I think the key with Amazon audience or AMC audiences are, it's not that the data is super different. It's that you're able to zoom in on that data in a more granular way. So there are a couple of examples that Jack provided, right? One is the ability to say not just someone ended up on a PDP, but how did they get there, right? Was it a sponsored product ad, a DSP ad, a sponsored display ad, and then retarget based on that specific data. So that's kind of tying back into that ad path optimization piece. Additionally, you can look at the frequency that an action was done, which is not something that you can do within traditional DSP custom audiences. So that allows us to say that either someone purchased and when they did so, they were new to brand, or that someone has been repurchasing. And so maybe I don't need to target them anymore. Additionally, you're able to determine what engagement means. Is it a detailed page view like we traditionally say? Is it adding to cart? Is it clicking through? So you just have a little bit more control over your retargeting strategy. There also are some kind of net new tactics that come into play as well, which Jack mentioned, keyword targeting. Previously, almost every custom audience that you would build through a DSP would be based on an ASIN list or a brand name. You couldn't use any sort of keyword learnings that you're getting from your sponsored ads account in your tactics for DSP. Now you're able to use those learnings in a more concrete way to target users before they even get to a PDP. So it does allow you just to have a lot more control, I would think, as opposed to the ADSP audiences, which are great, but they just don't zoom in as deeply as you get with AMC audiences.
Yeah, and I think one thing to talk about also is the strategy behind using the AMC audiences. So it's always important to have a well built out, very thoughtful strategy of what you're trying to accomplish with that. So if you're really targeting new to brand or unique users, You can, go off of variations of long tail, non-branded keywords to reach people that haven't engaged with your brand or been to the PDP or purchased from you in the past. You can use cart abandoners now within AMC to be able to target if you're looking more lower funnel. So I think that strategic approach to using AMC is critical. And then the last point I bring up is there is now shopping insights that Amazon provides. It's a paid feature, but it's not very costly for brands. And it allows you to get true non-ad attributed data or organic data. So then you can start using AMC audiences to target people who've actually engaged with your brand through the organic path.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest pet peeves is like classical shopper marketers show these diagrams that are like ordinal paths of someone sees this touch point and then that touch point and then this touch point and then they buy. And when you dig into AMC, you'll realize that those sort of idealized states of how people navigate your ad ecosystem are almost entirely wrong. And when we like box ourselves into that sort of ordinal approach of it has to be ABC in that order every time, we sort of lose the nuance. AMC 1 lets you uncover that nuance and also use AMC audiences to enforce the paths you want to take. Like you can target based off of previous ad exposure. So you can say, for example, I don't want to show anyone an OLV ad that's never seen my streaming TV ad, and build that ordinality of it's A, then B, then C, because I know that's the best order, and I'm going to force people to go down that path rather than letting them go ad hoc throughout your ad ecosystem.
Brilliant. Let's move on to some cross-device and cross-platform discussions. So how would you ensure a seamless cross-device and cross-platform advertising experience for customers using DSP? And I guess to evolve that question, if you want, are there any notable cross-channel strategies that you'd like to share that you've tested and seen success with in the past? Or maybe that should be avoided?
I guess that really depends on what you're saying by channel, right? There's channel between like display advertising and search advertising, and then there's, I think of the retailers as well as kind of separate channels. So there are instances where, we historically work with brands across a number of retailers and across both display and search advertising. And I think the goal there is to never look at any of them in a silo. I think that's kind of one of the biggest pitfalls of having all these different retailers and these different platforms, is that you don't think of them as connected, but they truthfully are, and they have an impact on one another. A prime example would be, saying that we're already doing category keyword searches for our sponsored ads program, so we don't need to do any upper funnel for our DSP program. We'll just retarget, and over time you'll see your sales actually go down, your volume actually go down. You'll have a really high efficiency when it does for DSP, but you're just not replenishing that retargeting pool. So thinking about it as, even though I'm doing this on this side of the platform, how do I make sure that I'm doing even more on this side of the platform to have that full funnel approach? In terms of device, I think the one thing that I always recommend is just to have a duplicated strategy across this desktop and mobile. A lot of people will focus in on mobile, especially for Amazon, because obviously the app is the biggest driver of volume and sales. But there is a huge opportunity, especially with display advertising, to utilize desktop as well. You just get different placements and you're able to show different ad sizes. So you just are able to have a kind of broader strategy there.
Interesting you mentioned that one, because we've always built mobile and desktop from day one together and had those running alongside each other. Yeah, I know that we're going to typically see a larger audience on mobile because we all live on them. But,
Tom, I want to, I'll jump in and piggyback on that. I think it's, we're going to dive into exclusions, how important it is to exclude certain audiences from all of your different executions, and testing and learning and building out a great test and learn program. But the only real way to do that is by having your campaigns, your orders, and your line items all built out in a way that you can identify quickly, easily what's performing the best, what's engaging the most new to brand. AMC is a revelation, but the DSP, the UI, the reporting has come light years over the last 3 years also. So I think, you can get some real quick glance view understanding of performance, but the best way to do it is to have line items broken out by supply source. So I'm kind of diving into that specific order, but you do want to have the mobile versus desktop broken out, the on Amazon, off Amazon. If you're targeting a specific set of sites or 3P inventory, you want to make sure you have those all broken out so you can easily see the relevance of each audience and the specific KPI within each. And spoke about it already, what I think a lot of people in the industry call ROAS jail. Yeah, you can run everything retargeted on Amazon mobile, and you're seeing a ROAS that's 2-3x what you're seeing from sponsored product advertising, but it's driving 0 new to brand sales. You're not reaching, any unique shoppers. You're actually saturating, the marketplace, that each individual user with too much frequency of advertising, and it can cause a negative effect over time. So really being able to get those insights broken out as granularly as possible is critical for, long-term growth.
And there's no difficulty to doing that from the get-go, is there either? I feel like it's very different from setting up a keyword campaign where you don't really know what's going to perform from the get-go. So you've got all your keywords together, and then you start breaking them out based on performance. I think when we've got mobile, desktop on and off of Amazon, it's so quick and easy to set that up separately from day one.
Yeah, I'm a stickler for third-party supply. What I mean by that is each of the third-party supply partners Amazon uses have different fees. So when you try to back out to the percent of a working dollar, if you jumble them all together, you have a really hard time figuring out, like, of the money I put into Amazon ads after you take out the platform fee and the money you pay your agency, how much is that supply partner taking? And it's a huge range. So you got to be very tactful in breaking those out, so that you have much more control over, yes, supply platform A has higher ROAS, but I'm getting 50 cents on the dollar for every dollar I put in. And maybe that's money spent somewhere else. The other thing that I am also a massive stickler for is viewability. I think when you're looking at using any analytical tool, especially AMC, all of the queries you get from the instructional query library don't use viewable impressions, they use impressions. What that does in practice is when you're trying to figure out, oh, which of my devices are the best, which supply source should I use, and you're looking at raw impressions rather than viewable or server-side impressions, you have no idea if someone actually saw that ad. So why in the world would you use an attribution model or a measurement approach that says, wow, mobile's amazing, but you're not checking if someone saw the ad? And that sort of like viewability problem with measurement is a problem not just on Amazon, but on all retail media networks. I was on the IAB panel that just came out with that nice report about retail media measurement guidelines. One of the hills that I chose to die on was no retail media networks except for Amazon abide by MRC standards for viewability. So you can't ensure that when Walmart is giving you your like multi-touch attribution or incremental ROAS or whatever they have, that someone actually saw the ad that you were showing them. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Very, very important.
Jack, what's your opinion on like viewability settings off Amazon 3P versus mobile versus desktop on Amazon? Do you vary that, or do you keep it pretty consistent? Do you use highest viewability across the board?
So viewability and scale are sort of inversely related. So it really depends, right? If you are, so it's like, for example, Group M has their own viewability standard that is substantially higher than the MRC viewability standard. And what that does is it very much constrains their ad inventory. So it's much harder to spend if you have very high viewability, just because less inventory meets that viewability standard. So if you find yourself blowing through your budgets, turning up viewability is a way to ensure you're going to get better performance. You'll spend less, but the actual quality of each impression will be higher. The inverse is also true. If you find yourself not being able to spend your budgets, viewability is one of the levers you could pull to increase scale. It's not my preferred lever. So I would think you'd want to start with something like bidding more or increasing the amount of supply you're using rather than toggling viewability as your first approach to scale. But it is an option available to you if those other things don't work.
Yeah, I would
no,
argue that
okay.
if you're decreasing your viewability in order to spend more, you should probably adjust your strategy there. There's a certain level of viewability that's fine. You know, it's not completely viewable, but you're still getting the ad out there and people are seeing it. But if that's your lever to pull in order to increase traffic, spend, whatever, then you probably needed to look into your audiences, your reach, your tactics, and then your settings, like you pointed out, Jack, beyond viewability, like bids, day parting, etc. Because obviously you don't want to make your positioning less relevant in order to just get more traffic very quickly, because over time that's going to decrease your overall performance and the impact of that traffic overall.
Yeah, I'm going to open myself up a little bit for you guys to maybe disagree and provide a little feedback on this. But like, so when we can't control or we don't understand as well, like the user interaction with a specific page or website, you know, we use the highest, you know, viewability threshold because we don't have an understanding of all the data from each different publisher that they're landing on to view the ads. But like on Amazon specifically, there have been times when, say, using like a contextual type of placement, or even if we're on Prime Day, you know, during that real peak event, we'll decrease, or even at times we'll remove the viewability just during that tentpole event. Do you think that, would you challenge that?
Not necessarily. I think you kind of touched on a few key areas where I think it's fine to have a little bit more open settings in terms of your viewability. For instance, contextual targeting on site, that's always going to be primarily on a PDP and a pretty visible placement. I typically don't remove my viewability settings, but I'd be more open to having that lower viewability in a situation like that. On-site in general, also, because people do tend to scroll around a bit more, especially during like a Prime Day event, as you noted. It's those off-site placements that I'd be a little bit more wary of in terms of opening up viewability like that.
I'd be okay with it. I think on-site contextual is the best place to do contextual. Off-site contextual, or like off Amazon contextual to be more accurate, is where you get some really messy potential ad serving and also really messy reporting. Because contextual is targeted just for the audience based on the content of the web page itself, not on the user who's viewing the web page. It breaks AMC's reporting because it can't resolve the ad impression to a specific user. So basically, when you go into AMC, what will happen is if you're using offsite contextual, you'll have a number of impressions, and some of those impressions aren't linked to any specific person, which makes it very hard to figure out, like, did this offsite contextual work with using AMC? It helps in the native console for ADSP, but it sort of breaks that AMC closed loop measurement.
Yeah, and I know this topic's coming up a little bit later as far as privacy and compliance, or we could be getting close to that. But Amazon's, again, they're putting a lot of resources into the contextual space. They just added the online video for contextual, you know, off Amazon as well. But I think that's driven by the industry and, you know, where we're going right now, where it's not going to be cookie-based advertising in, you know, possibly the near future.
Yeah, the ever looming end of cookies.
Cookie getting.
Yeah.
I think you are segueing us nicely into our next section there. We are going to move on to privacy and compliance. So given the evolving privacy landscape, what steps do you take to ensure compliance with regulations while maintaining effective advertising strategies?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of ways. Contextual is obviously part of the industry's answer for this. Essentially allowing you to still have highly relevant targeting that is not reliant on the user data in particular and is more about the context of the page or the PDP that the ad is showing up on. That performs relatively well, especially on site. In terms of an off-site strategy or a growth strategy, it's difficult to scale. And it is, as Jack pointed out, a little more difficult to measure offsite. I think another option that people have, and this is actually, you can implement this through AMC in order to utilize this tactic on Amazon, is to use their own first-party CRM data to essentially find that really highly relevant group of people, and then create lookalike audiences in order to find an incremental group of users who's very similar to their existing customer base. So those are kind of two tactics that get around the need for cookies. I'm sure there will be more that are developed over time. We keep hearing that cookies are going away, but we never get a firm date on that, do we?
How about you, Dave?
Yeah, just in regards to like AMC, the one thing I would make really clear is that Amazon is a stickler as far as privacy and making sure that they are in compliance. So when you're working with AMC and you're pulling that data, one thing to consider is there is a minimum threshold for us to be able to pull reporting in dashboards, right? So if you're looking at it, if you're a mid-sized brand, you need to start thinking, how can I, and you're going to want to work with your specialist at whatever agency to understand what's the best strategic fit for you. But if you're really looking to like micro target into one single ASIN based off of a one shopping behavior, maybe it's you're looking to target the first touch attribution and the relevance of it, and you're just driving one ASIN, you're most likely not going to be able to return statistically relevant results that are going to fall within your thresholds that you've set as an agency. Like for us, we have 98% confidence thresholds that we set within matching specific, the data that we see through the sponsored advertising reporting that you're getting. But when you're not reaching specific thresholds, that it'll come back with null values, and then the insights aren't as great. So I think that call out to understanding Amazon's strict adherence to privacy is important as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest place where advertisers can do the legwork to ensure privacy is protecting their customers' first-party data. First-party data is a very powerful targeting technique. It is definitely fraught with some info security concerns. So like be mindful about how you're storing data, what you agreed with your customer when you told them you were going to collect first-party data. So you're not violating GDPR or any of those other privacy regulations, that you're using first-party data for an unauthorized purpose. As an agency, we're very mindful about actually getting our hands on a client's first-party data. In most instances, a first-party data contract between let's say a brand's loyalty shopper who subscribes to their newsletter or whatnot, doesn't allow that data to be shared in a non-anonymous way with a third party. So most of the time, that means if you're a brand and you have a big CRM, you can't just send a raw file of that to your agency. So don't do that. That would be something I'd be very mindful of, and I've seen gone horribly awry. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you do use AMC to upload that data, it does hash it, obviously. So it's not just sending names, emails, addresses to your advertising team, just as a heads up.
Exactly. It is kind of tricky as an advertiser to know how to do that, though. So your agency or your Amazon counterparts can help you out to figure out how to hash it and upload it correctly.
Brilliant, thanks. We put a poll out earlier in the chats asking about expertise and experience with AMC itself, and it seems that the majority of our viewers and listeners today have either never used it or only dipped their toes into it. Do you have any advice on how our viewers today could go about getting onto the Amazon Marketing Cloud for their DSP? Shameless plugs welcome.
Well, obviously use Pacvue. There's my shameless plug. You can reach out to your Amazon team. So your Amazon AE should be able to help you get that set up. Or if you're working with an agency, they likely have an entity that they can set an instance up for you underneath in order to start pretty much immediately using that data. It's actually a very quick process. I think Dave mentioned earlier that Amazon's putting a lot of weight behind AMC, and so they obviously want more people to utilize it. So I'm sure if you were to reach out to your Amazon AE right now, they would probably get that set up relatively quickly. And obviously, if you're working with a tech provider like Pacvue or an agency, they should be able to help you as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I want to double down on the reaching out to your Amazon contacts, your AE, or others within Amazon that you work with. They have an AMC referral program that they're building out right now. Amazon is not, they have access to AMC and data, but they want it to be driven by self-serve agencies and by customers of theirs, by the actual brands that they work with. So if you reach out to them and you don't have a solution in place, they'll direct you to a preferred partner that has AMC. So I think that's really the first step.
Yeah. The other stuff I would add is my friend Avi Spivak runs the AMC training team at Amazon to help folks get accredited. So AMC has 3 certifications. An AMC Foundations course, which is sort of for those non-technical users, and then an AMC Cleanroom Practitioner, which is for folks who are comfortable writing SQL, and then an AMC Developers course, which I hope none of you have the privilege to take. It's not so fun. It's for folks who are software engineers. I've taken all 3. But I would say start with the Foundations course. It'll give you a really good grounding on what's out there. And then if you're feeling bold and you want to learn how to code, or already do have some coding skills, the Cleanroom Practitioner one is a great place to look. There are also a couple of folks in the space who are really good at sharing their thoughts and insights about Amazon Marketing Cloud. I'm someone who does that pretty religiously. I know the folks at Buybox Experts and Pacvue do as well. The other shameless plugs for folks who I think do a really good job at this are Srinath from IntentWise, does a really nice job at sharing AMC content, as well as Destiny with Sean and Dustin from Better AMS also do a really nice job of providing AMC educational material. So if you're looking for some resources, those would be the folks I would turn to.
Thank you so much. I guess cycling back, before we move on to another question, do we have any more insights or strategies regarding privacy and compliance? No problem. So let's get into some success stories if you're willing to share any. Have you got any particularly challenging or noteworthy orders and campaigns that you've worked on where your mastery and knowledge of Amazon DSP, whether that's been utilizing any data from AMC, have made a significant difference in achieving any outstanding results? We've talked about ROAS jail, but have you had any kind of unique outlying orders that have actually seen incredible results outside of the obvious low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, we've had a number of instances where we've been able to reach results that were previously not really expected. I obviously can't give specifics, but in general terms, we have worked with multiple brands where we basically, when we start onboarding them to Pacvue and helping them with their strategy, we just do a complete overhaul of their campaign structure, orders lines, what creatives use, what targeting tactics are used. And what we often find is a lot of people come to us with a lopsided strategy, so to speak. So they have awareness, consideration, and conversion campaigns, but it's not balanced throughout their program. And so the goal is obviously for them to drive sales. A lot of people come to us with that goal, drive sales, do so efficiently. But in many cases, what we try to do is rebalance. So for every promoted product, for every promoted category, we have the full funnel of tactics active and open. So we will have, in many cases, even if our goal is to drive sales, the ability to spend more in that upper funnel in order to do so sustainably. And so that's kind of the way that we've, over time, driven results that are positive and in many ways shocking, because we're able to increase sales, not lose any efficiency, and still see an upper funnel impact with, new to brand purchases going up, engagement going up, and ultimately brand awareness going up. So it's another way we've been able to do that is after the fact, incorporating that data into AMC and showing the actual reasons why that's happening. And that's mostly using that kind of multi-touch attribution model, or the multiple multi-touch attribution models that are available through AMC to show this is why we had these results. Even though we started to balance your program, push more into that upper funnel awareness and consideration bucket, we were able to still drive more sales because those are starting more of those relevant customer journeys.
Regarding that full funnel approach as well, is that something that you gradually move into? Do you start at the bottom and work down? Do you start at the bottom and work up? Or do you just do it all from the get-go? So
I ripped the Band-Aid off personally. Teams that I work with, we don't see any reason to kind of slowly build into the upper funnel for the most part. Having them all active at once is really the key. Having upper funnel tactics, mid funnel tactics, and lower funnel tactics all active at the same time is how you drive that sustainable growth. So if you're focused too much on any given part of the funnel at any given time, you're ultimately not kind of replenishing that funnel, replenishing the flywheel, and ultimately driving those sales as well as that reach. So my answer is to rip the Band-Aid off and just to have them all up and running as soon as possible.
Yeah, using AMC data like on an aggregated level across our agency with all the brands that are engaged with it, and every brand that we work with has AMC. But it is really informative to actually pull out the numbers of like conversion rates based on shoppers that engage in multiple ad product types, 4 or 5 different ad product types versus one ad product type. So I wanted to highlight that from Ann. I think that's really critical to be using all the opportunities to deliver your ads and reach shoppers within every part of their journey that you can access before they make a purchase. One of the success stories that we had, and again, same as Ann, I tread a little carefully and not say too much, but it's a children's clothing company that wanted to, they're obviously looking to drive overall their total sales efficiently with their total ACOS. And we put together, like a full funnel approach to that, like ripping the Band-Aid off, getting started. But some of the key things that we did were really, conducting thorough audience research. So using overlap reports, audience segmentation reporting, audience insights, and then using AMC to, address what type of engagement we're getting across that sales funnel with the past purchase as well. Targeting unique reach and new to brand analysis, using streaming TV efficiently and effectively.